talk about staying the course and going through hardship and believing in yourself. That's all part of it. How far can I go? How much can I endure? What's my limit? When you're 40, you say, okay, maybe I live to 80, so this is my midlife. I'm supposed to have a crisis now. The world has so much to offer. So I decided to pack my bags and go and see the world. Frank Hess, 50 years old, father of two teenagers, Hugo, 15, Samuel, 13, both born here in Malaysia. I was born and raised in France, in the countryside of Metz, in the northeast part of France. You probably detected my French accent a little bit. I grew up and studied in France. And when I graduated, as part of my curriculum, I had to do a thesis, and I decided to go overseas and went to Holland to work with Philips in Hilversum. And that was my first experience overseas, and I never came back. I felt the world has so much to offer. I decided to carry on. From there on, I went to Ireland, to England, Spain, Taiwan, back to England, and lived and worked in these countries. And now, I think, pretty permanently in Malaysia. This year is going to be 16 years that I've been living and enjoying life here. Hugo is 15, right? So he was born the first year I came here. And for him, this is home. He's lived all his life here in Malaysia. I'm currently the managing director of Trapeze Group ASEAN. Trapeze is an IT solution provider dedicated to public transport. My focus has been on creating a team over here. Started pretty much alone, and now I've got a team of 18 people working with me. And Trapeze is quite an interesting experience for me. It's quite different to my previous jobs. I'm really involved in all aspects of the business, which makes it interesting because you wake up in the morning and you never quite know what you're going to have to face during the day. I mean, you've got your agenda and your schedule, of course, but there is always the challenge of the day that takes you by surprise a little bit. It's very, very varied in what you have to do, and you try to be the best at all of these things, which is very challenging and also very gratifying when you see the results, as I said, starting from a very, very small team, like 2 people, to now have all functions, sales, pre-sales, HR, finance, project delivery, and customer care. It's quite satisfying to see. It's like building a family, enjoying the challenges and the success together. It's very fulfilling. My earlier part of my life, I was highly focused on making myself very marketable, go overseas, learn English, try to have different roles in different companies, in different countries, get as much experience as possible so I'm very marketable. So that was my focus in the 20s and 30s. Then family came along and focusing on growing the family, offering a home. When I hit 40, I started to get quite comfortable and something happened. The midlife crisis, I guess. When you're 40, you say, okay, maybe I live to 80, so this is my midlife. I'm supposed to have a crisis now, and for me, it did happen. It was not so much a crisis. I didn't buy a sports car. It was more a shift of focus. It was more focusing on myself when I hit that 4-0. It was all about developing resilience, and it was physical and mental toughness. I developed books about resilience and self-development, and I put it into practice through sports. Started like everybody, running your 5K, 10K, your half marathon. Then I went on to full marathons, and I was like, how far can I go? How much can I endure? What's my limit? What's my number? And I was always exploring that limit. And then I went on to bigger numbers, like the 70s, 80, 100, even 100 miles running. But then I started to mix because doing too much running, you start having problems. So I started to do cross training, cycling, because it's less impact, and swimming as well, which is very good. And that led me to go into Ironman training and competing. I qualified for the World Championship. That took me to South Africa to compete, holding the French flag, representing France in the Ironman. It was quite an experience, and you feel very proud of what you've done to get to that. But when you start, you see this as impossible feats. You would never believe you are able to do this. But through studying, learning, reading those books, listening to people having done something similar, planning and training progressively, you get there. Through this, obviously, you have lots of ups and downs, lots of failures, not so good race, injuries, and other problems. You develop that grit. Always believe that you will overcome it. If you fail today, you have learned something new. Just do the analysis, try to understand what's happened, change your regime, go back at it, try again, and then you see it succeed, and it's so satisfying. You do this through sports, but essentially it's you, and you're developing that grit in you. There's actually a very good book about this. It's called The Way You Do Anything is the Way You Do Everything. And it's so true. It is you in all these different experiences, being at work, at home, in sports. At the core, it's still you. And you will find the same resources, same energy and strength in whatever you do. When I was going through the train, I realized some of these ultra marathoners in the world were vegan. How is that possible? How can you just live on plants? I got to read a book, Born to Run, and I realized it's not about how much energy that you can bring into your body, but it's how much your body can actually consume. And it's also about making your body more efficient. And I became quite a strict vegan or plant-based diet. Really tried to avoid all sugars, oil, anything processed. Lost 20 kilos, gradually being able to do all of these super long distance events. Yeah. I was realizing how obsessed I become when I do something, or even changing diet. French is very similar to Chinese. We eat anything that moves and grows. When I announced this to my mom, she was going to disavow me. And eventually she became good with the decision, but it took a while, Middle-aged man, I guess, start with that. Striving for balance, because being the ultra distance, going extreme plant-based, these are pretty extreme things to do. When I focus on something, I really give it my 100%, and I tend to zoom in to what it is I really want to achieve. But it's hard for people around me to experience that. Training for an Ironman is 15 to 20 hours of training every week. That doesn't count the planning time, going around shops and buying gear, and it just consumes you. And of course, it comes at a cost of not having time for your loved ones. I wouldn't say I'm a strict vegan anymore. Life gets pretty grim if you're too strict about it, and because there is a world out there, and you have to flex. If you have to keep friends, you can't impose your diet onto them. So I'd say I'm more of a vegetarian now. Friends do invite me again for dinner parties or going out for meals. Yeah, it is time to give time to other things a little bit more in my life, and just trying to find that right balance. Yeah. The way I hear this question is, if you wanted to do something, but you're not sure, what is it you would tell yourself? I tend to live in the present. I really try to make the most of what I have here right now. I never look back in the past. I regret very few things. Probably made the right decision at that time in that mindset I had then. I never think too much of the future either. And I've got a vision, I've got plans to support that vision, and I execute. If I wanted to tell something for me in the future, I would just do it now. See what I'm saying? It's a very difficult question to answer for me. Well, I'm glad you found an answer in what I just said. I did talk about my balancing act. That's right now a real focus for me, a very personal internal work that I need to do. And also this work about finding that balance is being good with it. And whatever you do, just be happy and enjoy that experience. And yes, if you can be better at something, learn and try. But who you are is probably good enough already. So it's something I'm still working on, right? Because I have a tendency to do extreme stuff and to always try to do more. Yeah. on the work side, it really resonates with me what we do, public transport. I just found like a new wind in me where I feel what I do contributes to the greater good. Being part of this movement to get people off their cars. Get off your cars. You are living in that small metallic bubble. Get out there, meet people, see life out there. Public transport in the region still very much in its infancy. It's developing, but there's still a lot to do to improve either the coverage, reliability, convenience. Pushing this agenda feels meaningful. It's not only for sustainability or the lower carbon footprint, but mobility is freedom. If you can move around, you feel free. And if you can move around easily, you do it more and you feel freer. I find this very inspiring. Like, I really want to push this because I know what good looks like. When I started to work, I still didn't have a car because I was moving from country to country and I wasn't going to buy a new car every time. And I prefer to live in towns like in Dublin or in London or in Madrid. And I use all of these other modes of transport, which was very convenient, never been a problem. So trying to bring this here, I think will develop the nation and will get people with more experiences and more freedom, the mobility freedom. So it's a great cause and lower the carbon footprint. So when I was in college in France, you start the new year and then there's all new faces around you. And there's this guy just sat next to me and he didn't look like anybody else in that class. His name was Dennis Miranda and he came from Venezuela, a country that I really didn't know very much about and even where it was. Okay, South America somewhere. And we spent 2 years together. He was sitting next to me, following a course in French and he's Spanish speaking, right? And he was doing brilliantly. And I was intrigued. At that time we were sitting on the same bench at school, learning the same curriculum, but his experience was so much like living from a different country, speaking a different language, and he lived in the US and in France. He had so much more. So he could talk about stories. I was listening. Wow, the world has so much to offer. And I was just completely pulled by this. And from this encounter, I decided to pack my bags and go and see the world and say, I want to have stories like this. I want to develop my own stories. And that's how at college then I decided to do my thesis overseas. And that was the beginning of that journey, that traveling journey. It's such a big character in my life. I still meet him. He lives in the UK now. And, whenever I pass through UK, I make sure I stop by and say hi. And so we're very good friends. Starting to see we're grappling with floodings everywhere. Why is it all of a sudden KL gets flooded? Since the smart tunnel, there hasn't been really many floods and all of a sudden it comes back. We need to do something and I'm not sure there is a plan. I'm not hearing about it. Maybe it's climate change, maybe it's other things. I'm not close enough to the matter to know what to do. But if you were to spend as much time outdoor than I do, on my bike or running around in the jungles, and there's something that Malaysians are not great at, is to respect nature. You see some wild dumpsters here and there, people dropping their stuff everywhere. And obviously all these things go into the gutter and clots things up. A couple of weeks ago, there was one of these flash floods at the bottom of Jalan Maruf and Jalan Bangsa. The water went away quite quickly, but left behind tons of trash. And you're like, yeah, okay, that probably caused that gutter to clot up and flood that area. There was so much trash on the road. I mean, there are not many things I don't like about Malaysia, really. That's a small thing, but I think that's something that everybody can do. Keep that piece of paper in your pocket until you find a bin somewhere. That cigarette box, don't throw it out of your car window and The weather. I'm in my shorts right now. Yeah, you come back from work, you can put your shorts and your t-shirt and have a drink under your coconut tree. Sounds like paradise, right? I love spending time outside. I love the sun. So I spend a lot of time on my bike, going around, discovering areas. I've toured Malaysia so many times. I've done so many miles around the whole country. I've seen some very small villages here and there. When you live in the northern hemisphere, you've got the 4 seasons, which is quite nice too. And here you get the best all year long. Bright days, lots of sun. Whenever I want, I jump on my bike and I go for a ride or go for a run. That's freedom for me. Yeah, absolutely, no problem. You know my number. You're welcome anytime.